Hello, my name is Brother Michael, and this is the story of my transformation. I'm so thankful for my salvation. I hope this is a blessing to you. This is really where I've come from, and I hope it uplifts and blesses you in some way. I got saved December 31st, 2016. It was the day that changed my life forever. I've come from a far place, a low place, and I really want to give this testimony so someone out there can be blessed by it. My story goes back, my family was Catholic. I went to a Catholic school. So my view towards God and salvation, it wasn't exactly what it is today. I got diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 10 years old. And at that time, my relationship with God got totally scarred and hurt right at that time. So type 1 diabetes is a condition where your body doesn't make insulin. And at that time, I was just really like, God, why are you putting me through this at such a young age? And I had my ups and downs. And what I really focused on at that time was all athletics. That was what I put all of my effort towards, was tennis. So in high school and college, if you saw Brother Michael, it was 100% tennis. My whole happiness, all of my joy was focused on whether I was winning or losing a tennis match. And I was successful, and that's great, but there was something in my heart, there was like a hole that I was constantly trying to fill. Trophies, championships, records. There was something in my heart that it just like could not be filled. So through diabetes, through tennis, I was trying to find my own happiness. And I graduated college, and it was like, okay, here's the world. You know, when someone graduates, they're like, all right, I'm going to start a career. I'm going to go try to do this. I'm going to go to try to do that. So I went out and I traveled the country. I went to Atlanta, Georgia, Kansas City, New Orleans. Wherever I was going to go and try to find my version of happiness. And that entailed tennis, which is a good thing, but the way I was using it, it was everything. And I fell short. So I got an opportunity to end up in a school to coach college tennis in Las Vegas, University of Nevada at Las Vegas. So this was 2014. So here's Brother Mike going out to Las Vegas. You know, the essence of who I was still a good person. I had a good heart, good intentions, coach, tennis player, all of these things. As a tennis player, that was my identity. Winning state championships, going to a college. In my mind in college, my whole entire existence was wrapped up over a record. There was a 30-year record at Western Michigan University. No one broke it. It was 213 wins. And my whole existence and my whole value system was whether I broke this record or not. I accomplished the goal, and when I was done, it was kind of like, well, what now? Like, what am I gonna do? And that's really where the wheels fell off. I go out to Las Vegas, don't know a soul, and they call it the Sin City for a reason. The strip, drugs, gambling, the fast life, all of that. So you have a young guy from Michigan going out to Las Vegas, and I just got swept up in it all. I started off all right, and what they say, the devil is gonna kill, steal, and destroy. And for me, it was trickery. These people that I was getting close to, that I was giving myself to, they said that I'm gonna have your best interest at heart, and they had none of that. So I started experimenting with a lot of different things. And this goes back to that void that I was trying to fill. And with the diabetes, like, things just started getting more and more complicated, more and more physical pain. And it's very interesting, the physical pain and how I was trying to heal it was not connecting. And what I thought I was doing to help myself, I was making it significantly worse. And it started off simply cigarettes, marijuana, and then it kept going and kept going. And when you're a type 1 diabetic and when you have a condition like I did, it's often like a death sentence. You know, suicide and depression, these are real things. And people can talk about suicide, or they can think about it. You can do it in a lot of different ways. But what I was doing to my body, it was ultimately that. So, like I said, the cigarettes, marijuana, and then all of a sudden I'm doing this, and then all of a sudden I'm hanging out with these people. And it got to the point, and mind you, my relationship with God, I didn't have one. When you can hear the voice of God and He guides you and He protects you, at that point in time, I had none of that. So the devil's like licking his chops. And me and the devil were tight. And I am so grateful for the mercy of God and what He has done to heal my mind. Because at that time, I was like wild, like as bright as you could possibly imagine. So Brother Mike at the time was wearing neon colors, and my hair was going in every different direction. And what I was doing for peace was I was literally painting as much as I possibly could. And we're not talking like, all right, let's do a little picture. It was like everything was painted. And really what I was painting was my pain and my separation from God. In very, very dark time, and just the people I was around. So as you can possibly imagine, the spiral was going lower and lower and lower and lower, and I was having less and less. You know, the devil paints a beautiful picture. When I went out there, I was like, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna have all these great things, I'm gonna do all this awesome stuff, I'm gonna have fun. But, you know, and my relationship with my family was torn. As soon as I started experimenting with these things and these drugs and these people I was around, it's like my family, like, it was very sad because like I was a part of my family. You know, I'm half away, you know, all the way across the country. So going back to Vegas, we're getting further and further down the slope of sin. It got to a point where I was living out of my car. I had no money. No one would take me in. And with the diabetes, I had no access to what would help me, what would keep me alive. So this is March of 2016. I got to a place where I'm like, I'm having a heart attack. Something's wrong with my chest. I didn't want to go to the hospital. I don't want to go to the hospital because I was like, oh, it's going to be a $20,000, $30,000 bill, and I don't have 25 cents. So a couple of days go by, and I'm at the point where I think I'm going to die. And the mercy of God, I show up to the hospital. They're like, oh, we don't even know what's going on. So then I drove to another ER, and they got me in, and they checked my vitals, all that stuff. So I had a collapsed right lung with metastasized black pneumonia in my right lung. So yeah, so I'm very thankful to God that I wasn't taken right then, especially where I was at. So my family came out, spent 2 weeks in the ICU, and they removed part of my right lung. And they're that where the long road to recovery takes place. And the prayer of faith shall save the sick, and the Lord shall raise him up. And if have committed sins, they shall be forgiven. Confess your faults one to another, and pray for one another, that ye may be healed. The effectual, fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. So when it comes to drugs, substances, alcohol, cigarettes, marijuana, cocaine, LSD, crystal meth, whatever you want to talk about, from my experience, the amount of pain that I was feeling, the depth of what I was going through, when I was trying to fix myself and heal myself every which way that I could, the pain always was equated to what I was trying to do. And the substances that I used, it never could heal the pain that I went through. There was, so pain goes this way, the substances keep going. So the more and more that I was using, the more and more pain that I was feeling. And when you understand that God can handle the how, when you give God a chance, he's going to heal you. I was severely depressed. I was sick in the body. So of course I'm going to try to use these substances. I didn't have any access to God. The other piece is my relationship with my mother. For me, faith was always a pressure point in my family. I love my mother, and she's the spiritual rock of our family, but Jesus was always pressured, and it wasn't personal. So there was always a struggle. So it wasn't I'm looking for God. It was I'm looking to try to do this for my mom, and salvation gave us an opportunity to mend that relationship, and it was something personally that I found. So with my mother, after getting saved, how many times we've prayed with each other, how many times when we've been able to reconcile situations because we can have that common bond. And when you have a child that's out there in sin, that is in a self-destructive path, the harder you push against them, sometimes the farther they get away. And that was the case with me. The timing wasn't right. God has timing with all of this. But what really helped was when my mom softened and she was there for me, and I found my own salvation, so then we could bridge that gap. So I come back home. My family rescued me. I come back home, and that's where the fellowship and the planting of the seeds come. Because when I was in sin, it wasn't just cigarettes. It wasn't just the marijuana. It got to the point where I was doing much stronger things. And when you get off of drugs, that period of time is where the devil's going to work on you the most. And that's where the depression hit the most. So 8 months back home here in Jackson, in a low place. And one of the saints kept telling me, "You're a gift to humanity." And I kept saying, "I'm not even a gift to my own pet cat." So it gets closer and closer to the end of the year, and that's where I got invited to a church play. I didn't have any concept of salvation, and they said there's going to be a church play on December 31st, and I got invited, and that's really where I was like, I didn't have any concept of salvation, any concept of getting right with God. All of my experiences to that point with church were negative. And at the end of the play, it was like the altar call, and that's when I got saved. And when they say that God is going to open up doors, and he's going to heal you, and he's going to restore you, I had no concept of that. And And that's what happened. Now, where's the flip side of this redemption story? And taking you through, the miry clay that God put me through, that's where salvation just was such a beautiful thing, is such a beautiful thing. So at that point, all right, I'm saved. I'm clear from these things. I'm forgiven from my sins. All right, what am I going to start doing with myself? And that's where I went, you know what I'm going to start doing? I'm going to get up and I'm going to start laboring for God. All right, so what can I do? All right, so this is who I am. This is where I'm at. What am I going to start doing? And when I say God's going to open up doors, he literally is going to open up doors. Don't worry about the how. God took care of the how. So I get saved, and all of a sudden, I start substitute teaching. It's man, I can start bringing some light into this community of Jackson. And it was just the most beautiful thing ever. Started substitute teaching, and I started coaching all sorts of different sports. And then God just kept blessing and blessing and blessing. And insurance for a type 1 diabetic, I never felt like I was taken care of in that regard. And God helped. And then it was, substitute teaching. Then I got a full-time position at Jackson High School. And then I got a position at the YMCA. And then I was a case manager for some at-risk youth programs here in Jackson. And it was literally I'm just a servant. God, I'm here to serve you. And it was one door after the next. And to the point where I'm, my body is I have my struggles. Diabetes is a condition of maintenance and a lot of up and downs, a lot of trials and tribulations. But God is able to help you, and now it's to the point where I want to help others, and the church and my salvation and my walk with God has been it's been a lifesaver. It's hard to put into words, but it's this is my testimony, and I hope it it gives a blessing to others, because when you're in a place that's so low and so dark, and especially with your families, when you have a family member who's in a dark place, show them Jesus Christ, show them the compassion that they need, and then they might give salvation a chance. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me and heard my cry. He brought me up also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my goings. So where I was coming from in this Lo-Debar, low place, after getting saved, self-respect, work ethic, compassion for others, modesty, especially for me, modesty was such a humongous part of my salvation, where I was so, like I said, everything for me was bright, and how much attention can I get, and it was all serving towards myself. When I found salvation, it was, okay, how can I just try to be respectful to others and try to be a good person? And what that did to my career, it's hard to describe. It's really hard to describe. I like to serve others, and those are the fields I've chosen for my profession. And the Church of God taught me so much of this and instilled that into me. And I'm just so grateful to God that I had the opportunity to just sit there and learn. But as soon as you get that joy in your heart, salvation gives you joy. Prayer the fellowship of the saints, the support system, the love of God, helping out others. Why would you need to use these substances? Like, it doesn't equate. I'm so grateful to God that I had a relationship with Brother Lee and his kids. During that whole time, I didn't have any concept of salvation, but Brother Lee, Justice, the kids, they spent time with me, and they were planting the seed of Christ. Now, what do I mean by that? Were they coming up to me and talking to me about salvation and getting right with God? Not at all. They weren't. No mention of that at all. No soft sell. It was to the point where they showed me the compassion of Jesus Christ. They showed me care. They showed me patience. In a time when, like I said, I was wild. Like, my mind was crazy. I'm thankful to God that I can even put a sentence together to this day. And that's the power of deliverance and the restoration. So now, after getting saved, God has totally shifted my mindset towards tennis. Instead of it being something that's like me, trophy, this, that. Now it's used as, how can I extend my arm to extend light? How can I get someone else joy from this sport? So God can do miraculous things with your gifts. If you're a person who's a drug dealer, there's a skill set that you have out in sin that you can translate into salvation. And I've seen it happen, and it's happened with me.